January 30th, 1944. The South Pacific skies, 15,000 feet above the ocean. A dogfight is unfolding that violates every known law of physics and every tactical doctrine written in the survival manuals of the United States Marine Corps. Remember this date because in the next few minutes, you are going to witness one of the most ferocious individual performances in the history of aerial warfare. This is not just about courage. This is a display of aggression so intense it borders on a death wish. Imagine for a second that you are strapped into the cockpit of a damaged F4U Corsair. Your engine is sputtering, your fuel is critical, and on your horizon, no, right in your face, are 21 Japanese fighter planes. According to logic, according to sanity, your only move is to dive, run, and pray you live to fight another day. But First Lieutenant Robert Hanson did not run. He did something that made the blood run cold in the veins of everyone watching. He pushed the stick forward, banked hard and alone. He dove straight into the center of a 21-plane death storm. He was Robert Hanson, a Marine Corps ace, known to his squadron as Butcher Bob. And on this day, he was about to rewrite the definition of air superiority. To understand this moment of madness, we have to rewind the clock to the turn of 1943 and 1944. The Pacific Theater was a meat grinder. The focal point of this brutality was Rabaul, the heavily fortified Japanese stronghold at Simpson Harbor. It was a fortress bristling with anti-aircraft guns, radar stations, and swarms of fighters. For Allied pilots, a ticket to Rabaul was often a one-way trip to hell. Yet, in this theater of death, a 23-year-old lieutenant was carving out a legend. Robert Hanson was not your typical military archetype. The son of missionaries, born in India, he grew into a massive, 200-pound wrestling champion. This physical dominance translated into a flying style that was brutal, direct, and overwhelmingly aggressive, while others flew the Corsair with finesse. Hanson flew it like he was wrestling a bear, forcing the heavy machine to do his bidding through sheer will, to claim 21 kills in just 17 days. Sounds like propaganda, a statistical impossibility. But for Hanson, it was cold, hard fact. His streak began months earlier. On November 1st, 1943, during the landings at Empress Augusta Bay on Bougainville. That day, he single-handedly engaged a flight of enemy torpedo bombers, forcing 3 to jettison their payloads and run, while he destroyed 3 others. But the victory came at a price. A rear gunner on an enemy Kate bomber stitched his Corsair, with bullets rupturing his fuel tank. With his cockpit engulfed in flames, Hanson bailed out over shark-infested waters. He spent 6 harrowing hours floating in a rubber dinghy, surrounded by enemy patrols, until the destroyer USS Sigourney pulled him from the darkness. Most men, after staring death in the face like that, would lose their edge. They would hesitate. But not Hanson. That crash did not break him, it ignited him, when he transferred to Marine Fighter Squadron to 15. The Fighting Corsairs, his kills, which was flipped permanently to on. By mid-January 1944, Hanson was tearing through the enemy air force with a terrifying efficiency. On January 14th, he was separated from his squadron during a high-cover mission over Simpson Harbor. Instead of returning to base, he spotted a formation of enemy fighters assembling to intercept American bombers. He was alone. He did not care. He dove on them like a hawk. In the span of 12 minutes, he shot down 5 Eurofighters. Let that sink in. 5 kills in 12 minutes. He landed his Corsair with 14 bullet holes in the fuselage and the fuel gauge reading empty. Vapors in the tank. The ground crews looked at his sieves of a plane, then at his calm demeanor. And the legend of Butcher Bob was cemented. From there, the numbers just kept climbing. January 20th, 1 kill. January 22nd, 3 kills. January 24th for more. In 16 days, he had 21 confirmed victories. He was doing things with the Corsair that should not have been possible. engaging the nimble Japanese heroes in turning fights. Using his intimate knowledge of energy management to defy the rule that said never turn with a zero, he was proving that with enough skill and enough aggression, the rules did not apply. But the crescendo came on January 30th. Intelligence reports indicated a massive Japanese buildup around Rabaul. The Americans launched a saturation strike, every available bomber, every available fighter. This was to be Hanson's masterpiece. In the briefing room, the tension was thick enough to choke on. The flight plan took them straight into the teeth of the enemy defenses. Hanson walked to his plane, Bureau number 56039, the massive Pratt & Whitney engine roaring to life with 2,000 horsepower. He taxied out, feeling the familiar vibration of the machine that had become an extension of his own body. At 6:48, wheels up. As the formation approached Rabaul, the radio crackled with the bomber leader's warning, "Bandits ahead." Hanson scanned the sky. It was not just a patrol, it was a wall of steel. 21 Japanese fighters had scrambled from Rabaul's airstrips. Through his gun sight, he identified them: 17 Mitsubishi A6Ms Erosen for Nakajima Key 44 to Joe's. Fast, climbing interceptors designed to kill bombers. They were positioned at 9,000 feet, climbing to dive on the American heavies. And this is where things went wrong for Hanson. His engine began to sputter. He was losing power. He fell behind the main fighter formation. Standard procedure for a straggler with engine trouble is immediate abort. Dropped anchor and head for home. But Hanson saw the tactical situation unfolding. He saw the 21 enemy planes positioning themselves to slaughter the bombers. If he left, the bombers would be defenseless. So, in a decision that defies comprehension, he used his altitude advantage to initiate a solo attack. He rolled his Corsair over and dove. He hit them at 400 miles per hour. He was not just attacking, he was disrupting. He locked onto the Japanese flight leader. This was Hanson's signature move to cut off the head of the snake. At close range, he unleashed a torrent of .50 caliber fire from his 6 machine guns. The lead's Aero disintegrated. One down, 20 to go. Instead of pulling up and extending away, the safe boom and zoom tactic, Hanson stayed in the mix. He carved through their formation, turning their numerical advantage into chaos by shattering their discipline. He forced them into a series of individual dogfights where he knew he was superior. The Japanese pilots, stunned by this suicidal aggression, scrambled to corner him. 15's Aeros on his tail, 6 blocking his path. Hanson threw his heavy Corsair around the sky with the grace of a stunt plane. He utilized the vertical plane, pulling into steep climbs, hanging on the prop, and executing hammerhead stalls to bring his guns to bear on enemies. On enemies who thought they were safe, he cleared the tail of another Corsair, blasting a zero out of the sky. Then another, then another. At one point, 4 Japanese fighters tried to box him in. Hanson turned directly into them. A head-on pass at a combined closure rate of over 600 miles per hour. It was a game of chicken, played with high explosives. The Japanese pilots flinched first, breaking formation. Hanson did not. He flew through the gap, his guns blazing, scoring yet another kill. By the time the rest of the Corsair squadron caught up to the melee, the sky was littered with burning wreckage and parachutes. Hanson had officially downed 4 enemy aircraft in that single engagement. Though witnesses believed the number was likely higher, he had taken on 21 planes, saved the bombers, and survived. He limped back to base, his plane battered, his ammunition bins empty. He landed a hero. His total stood at 25 kills. He was the leading ace of the Corsair squadrons, second in the Pacific only to the legendary Greg Boyington. And he was done. His tour was over. His commanding officer, Major Robert Towen, had seen enough. Hanson was grounded. He was ordered to rotate back to the United States on February 10th. In 1 week, he would be on a transport ship, heading home to ticker-tape parades and his family. But war is a cruel scriptwriter. February 3rd, 1944. 7 days before his ticket home, 1 day before his 24th birthday, there was no mission scheduled for Hanson. But the squadron was tasked with a milk run, a low-risk strafing mission against a lighthouse in flagged hour. At Cape St. George on New Ireland, Hanson volunteered. Maybe it was boredom, maybe it was the adrenaline addiction, or maybe it was just that relentless sense of duty. Major Rowan reluctantly agreed. It was a routine flight. They arrived at Cape St. George and spotted the target. Hanson rolled in for a strafing run. Just as he had done 100 times before, it should have been easy. But as he pulled out of his dive, skimming the treetops, a single, unlucky anti-aircraft shell, or perhaps a heavy machine gun round, struck his aircraft. There was no smoke, no fire, no dramatic explosion, but the damage was catastrophic. His wingmen watched in horror as the Corsair's wings wobbled. The majestic fighter, which had survived the fiercest dogfights in history, simply folded. The plane hit the water. It skipped once, then cart-wheeled and disintegrated into the ocean. The squadron circled low, eyes scanning the blue water for a yellow life raft. For a bobbing head for anything. They waited. The minutes ticked by. But the ocean remained silent. There was no raft. There was no parachute. Robert Hanson was gone. He died on the doorstep of safety, 24 hours before his birthday, 1 week before going home. The news rocked the United States. He was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. The citation read, in part for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life. Above and beyond the call of duty, it spoke of his masterful airmanship and indomitable fighting spirit. But to the men who flew with him, he was just Butcher Bob, the man who saw 21 enemy planes and decided it was a fair fight. Decades later, a destroyer, the USS Hanson, would carry his name across the same oceans. But his true monument is not made of steel. It is the story of those final, frantic months. It is the story of a pilot who operated at the absolute limit of human capability, who turned a heavy fighter plane into a weapon of mass destruction, and who, when faced with impossible odds, did not just survive, he attacked. Robert Hanson remains the eternal guardian of those skies, the ultimate embodiment of the fighting Corsair. If you want to uncover more legendary dogfights and the forgotten heroes of the Pacific Theater, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I am your history wingman. Keep your eyes on the skies.